Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I will now call the Elkins Common Council public hearing to order, and we will actually ask our city clerk to call roll.
Councilor Bras Fragonera.
Here.
Councilor Chenoweth.
Here.
Councilor Kwanzo. Councilor Guy. Councilor Higgins.
Here.
Councilor Hinchman.
Here.
Councilor Lowther.
Here.
Councilor Parker is absent. Councilor Severino.
Here.
Councilor Vest.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, now, is there anyone here for public comment on the proposed zoning ordinance?
Hello, my name is Susan Evick, and I was here at public comment the other day. And after I was here, I had some other questions. I had tried to research some more into some of the questions I have. I realize, that you're accepting public comment, but you're not necessarily able to answer my questions, and that's okay. Most of my thoughts tonight, I'm going to go through several questions, so I'm hoping that they will be able to be answered in the future, once everything is finalized, when you guys are ready for a vote. So why am I here again tonight? I initially had questions about the new zoning and ordinances in Elkins, specifically for my currently restricted residential area changing to a single-family residential area. Why was I concerned about these changes? Changing to a single-family residential makes changes to what is currently allowed in our restricted residential areas. Why do I care about these changes? I specifically care about opening up our family residential areas and not maintaining family communities because of these changes. Why are we not maintaining these family communities? I was given the reason that the city of Elkins is under the municipal home rule restriction. Why does the home rule not maintain communities for families? According to the home rule, we can't put restrictions on rental properties. The home rule restriction reads as follows: municipalities may not prohibit or effectively limit the rental of a property in whole or in part, or regulate the duration, frequency, or location of such a rental in whole or in part. Why does this not maintain single-family residential areas for families? In my opinion, if there are no restrictions allowed to rental properties based on the home rule restrictions, I cannot understand why my area is being changed to single-family residential instead of city residential. Either all the areas of Elkins are following the home rule restrictions or they are not. Why are there two categories being defined? And I'm saying, we have a single-family residential and then we're going to have the city residential. What is actually the difference? Why are there two categories and not just one? I have not been able to determine how this works for my area in the limited amount of time that I have been researching it, which is just the last 2 days. Why does this matter? If there are differences in restrictions for single family and city residential, then it does seem logical that we could also remove the conditional Airbnb for single family residential as well. Otherwise, in my limited understanding at this point, it seems we are not following the home rule as stated above. So it's either for all of Elkins or it's not for all of Elkins. Why then, if we cannot have something different, but it's not working for all of Elkins, why don't we consider writing an amendment to the home rule restrictions so that it will work for the citizens of Elkins the way it is intended and protect the character of existing neighborhoods in our new plan for zoning and ordinances? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here for public comment tonight? If not, I will now close the public hearing. And we will now open the Common Council special meeting. And I would like to recognize that we have a very special guest with us tonight, the Mayor of Buchanan, Robbie Skinner. So welcome, Mayor. If you'd please join me with the invocation, which will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would, bow your heads, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and all the blessings you have given us. We thank you for providing us the opportunity to serve the citizens of Elkins. We ask that you guide us in our decision-making as we strive to help our community grow. We also ask that you watch over and guide our country's leaders. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. And I would like to ask Mayor Skinner to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. And I will now ask our city clerk to call roll.
Counselor Ross Reaganera.
Here.
Counselor Chenoweth.
Here.
Counselor Kwanzo. Counselor Guy. Counselor Higgins.
Here.
Counselor Hinchman.
Here.
Counselor Lowther.
Here.
Counselor Parker is absent. Counselor Severino.
Present.
Counselor Vest.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you again. Is there anyone here for public comment on our regular council agenda? If not, we will move down to the minutes, and I'll look for or entertain a motion to accept the minutes from the July 7th, 2022 meeting.
Motion to accept as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Any comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Correspondence and notifications, you have the treasurer's report and your events. And we will move down to the committee reports, and we will start with Counselor Chenoweth.
With respect to the Personnel Committee, I have no report since we haven't had a personnel meeting since the last council meeting. The next personnel meeting will be August 11th. Special Hiring Committee with respect to Operations Manager, I think we've narrowed it down to 6 different candidates to interview. I think Jessica's going to send out an email tomorrow. We're going to pick a date to set interviews.
I will say we've had more applicants come in, so we may
So
have to review some
I
more.
think 5 more. So, yeah, we're going to have, I guess we'll figure out what we're going to do with those as well. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Counselor Guy.
No report.
Thank you. Counselor Hinchman.
Finance is not met, and normally we would have met next Monday, but it's been canceled because we haven't anything pressing to do.
Thank you. Counselor Severino, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Anything to report tonight? Anything you'd like to say?
No, I do not think.
All right, thank you. Counselor Higgins.
I have no report.
Thank you. Counselor Lowther.
The Parks meeting last week did not have a quorum to meet, so we will meet on the 3rd Wednesday of August.
Thank you, sir. Counselor Ross Reaganera.
The Rules and Ordinance Committee will be meeting August 24th. That's a change from our normally...
23rd, right?
23rd, I'm sorry. We've changed it so many times, I apologize. Yes, the 23rd. And the Planning Commission has been a little busy preparing all the documents and getting ready for this evening, so it's showtime. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Kwanzo.
I have no real report. There's our August meeting for the tree board will be at Nancy's house. We're going to have a social gathering to just celebrate all the great things we've done so far this year. And that'll be on August the 2nd at 5:30. Municipal Properties will meet again on the 17th of August. I can't believe it's August.
Thank you. Counselor Vest.
The Ad hoc Audit Committee, we're going over the job description of building inspector, code enforcement, and also zoning officer. Our next meeting will be August the 16th at 1 o'clock.
Thank you. And I'm disappointed that Counselor Parker's not here because I never know what he's going to say, but I'd also like for you to reach out and wish him happy birthday since today is his birthday. Probably, he's on vacation. Okay, our staff reports, we have our Chief Wastewater Operator, Whitney Himes.
Well, good evening. It's been a while since I've seen you. I've been kind of under the weather for the past month and a half, so I'm back, hopefully for a while anyways. First thing I want to let you know about is my employees. I have one employee that has received his Class 2 license. That usually takes 2 years to get. He's got it within a year. So very dedicated employee there. I have 2 employees that are signed up for the Class C course to get their collection system license. And I have 2 employees ready to get their CDL certifications. And keep in mind, 4 of these employees are still in their 90-day probationary period. So we have very dedicated, raring-to-go employees at the wastewater department, so I want to praise them for that. We've been working with Burgess and Nyepel with the water and wastewater needs assessment plan. This is going along with our long-term control plan over a 10-year period. We had a meeting yesterday with them, and it went very well. I believe we're going in the right direction on getting a lot of these plans in place within the next 10 years. In the next week, you might get some complaints about the smell in Riverbend. We have our building there in the front is our storage building. and our land application had ceased for a month, so we're going to be hauling that out. It should be just about a week, and that'll be cleaned up and taken care of. But we are looking for land application areas and sites. If anyone is interested, or if you know anyone who may be interested, please get a hold of me so we can get rid of some biosolids. And we are having some issues getting some material in. This is the first time I've actually seen this. We ordered some motors and motor starters in the past week. 9 days, it went to 60 weeks. So we're having some issues getting some motors and starters in for the wastewater plant.
Did
Hopefully
you say
that'll
60
subside.
weeks?
60 weeks.
Wow.
So 9 days to 60 weeks. But other than that, we're still chugging along and getting things taken care of and doing some regular maintenance. And I believe that's all I have to report to you right now. If there's any questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chief Bennett.
Good evening, everybody. I've only got a couple items for you tonight. The first and most important is our body-worn cameras are ordered as of this week, and I'm waiting on a shipment date. I'm guessing probably between 3 to 6 months before we'll have them on site, but that's still very positive. I'm very glad to make that purchase and get those on the way. Only other thing we have going on is all next week we'll be conducting a 40-hour basic SWAT course for the Mountain Region Special Response Team, so we'll have officers from about 7 different departments in the area. So you might see some extra vehicles and stuff in the parking lot. Other than that, unless anybody has any questions.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Himes.
Good evening. I don't have a lot to report. We're just trying to catch up on some projects. We have several projects in the works, but I know one thing we're working on is the Darden House lease, and I think Shannon and I have those updated to present to municipal properties. So I'm going to send those to Ms. Roberts and see if they're all okay, and then we'll have those probably by tomorrow ready to review and move on to the municipal properties meeting. Jessica, Dave Cutlip, and I met and scored the streetscape design proposals, and we are going to do those interviews next Tuesday. We have about half a day scheduled for those, and trying to think, it's just a lot going on. I think we are looking, I'm meeting with the sanitation supervisor as well tomorrow. We're going to talk about the sanitation garage, and Ms. Roberts and I talked about that, and Councilman Kwanzaa wanted us to provide an update also at municipal properties. So hopefully I can get some information from Tim to see about the sanitation garage, like what the needs are, if we can stay in that building, if we need to do something else. So hopefully we'll have an update at least before the meeting to everyone. So do you guys have any questions about anything that's going on? It's a busy place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief Himes.
I may not be as brief. So total call volume for the year, we're up 352. Last couple of months have been pretty busy. If you remember back in April, I came to you with a project to try to get some funding from State Farm for smoke detectors, and we were not successful in that endeavor. So in true firefighter fashion, we went to Plan B pretty quick. I was able to obtain a small amount of smoke alarms from the State Fire Marshal's office. They have a quantity on hand from a grant that they requested, and essentially we're the vehicle to get them installed. So I've been working with Sutton first of the week here to get something out on the website, newsletter, things like that, and we'll be hopefully in the next week or so installing these in various places in the city. We have to do the installation because the State Fire Marshal is assembling a database. They're a 10-year detector. There's no battery to change. And at the end of the 10-year life, their intent is to replace them. So we have to track it by physical location. So we will be able to do at a minimum of one, potentially 4 two-story homes, 2 smoke detectors or smoke alarms for homes that do not have them at all or do not have functioning ones. So I was pretty happy about that. Anybody have any questions for me?
Great work, Chief. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Sutton.
Just a few things to report on this evening. I just want to thank Rachel especially and Sutton for supporting me while I was able to take a vacation. That was lovely. The riverfront development design, I have the final draft in my inbox. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but the intention will be for the task force to review that final draft, send back any potential suggestions, comments. I don't expect that there will be many, if any at all, just because we've had such good communication with them throughout this process. And then once we have that document completed, it'll be presented to stakeholders group and then also sent out for public consumption. So once this is done, this is of course just a design document, and then the intention after that will be to take this document and start looking at how we want to phase it, what funding sources might be good opportunities for that, and just start moving forward from there. Also, EAST, which is the Elkins Area Shared Trails Group, is continuing to work on looking at different funding sources for a master trail plan. We have one application in with the, it's an ARC Power Planning Grant, Appalachian Regional Commission Power Planning Grant, and we are also considering a second grant application to the International Mountain Bike Association. It's a Trail Accelerator Grant, which has been, they've been successful in West Virginia in the past. So looking at both those opportunities, and still working with property owners on parcels where we can develop those trails. Lots of partners in that group. I'm very proud and excited of the work that that group's doing. I want to thank the police department and the fire department on very short notice today. They sent at least one vehicle from each over to the YMCA where the kids were having a car wash. I understand they had a little difficulty figuring out how to wash the top of the fire truck, but they got some suggestions and assistance with that. And also happy to have met and had a chance to talk with our new GIS technician today, Carrie Kidd. Sutton and I sat down and had some good conversations about ongoing projects and ways that she wants to contribute. She's very excited, and we're excited to have her. That's all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
Where are we with the Davis Avenue Bridge?
That is, we went through the interview process, and we're close to making a selection.
And that's for the design portion of it?
That's for the design,
Okay,
yes.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Roberts.
Thank you, Mayor. And I hope you would take a moment, indulge me as a citizen of the city and as the city attorney. I have a comment I'd like to make. While I have served as the city attorney, I took the opportunity when the council and the administrative officers that were successful in building a brand new water plant to replace a plant that was over 100 years old. It is the largest public works project ever in Randolph County. And I took the opportunity then to commend those that were involved. Several years down the road, back in 2020, you took on the project of amending your charter, which is also a large undertaking, and done during the pandemic at really an incredible effort on everyone's part. I would like to take this opportunity this evening to speak about one of the ordinances that you'll be considering tonight. It's Ordinance 301. And if you don't mind, Mayor, I'd like to read the preamble that I actually wrote to the ordinance.
Absolutely.
Whereas the City of Elkins, through the Common Council, first approved a zoning ordinance on March 3rd, 1959, with minor changes over the ensuing 63 years. And whereas since 2015, the Elkins Planning Commission, as part of the city's comprehensive plan, has been working on updating the city's zoning laws to ensure that the updated zoning laws incorporate proven, effective practices and comply with all applicable state and federal laws. And whereas during the entire process of the review and updating the zoning laws, the Elkins Planning Commission has relied on the pro bono. If you don't know what that word means, it means free. Advice and expertise of the planning and legal professionals from the WVU College of Law Land Use and Sustainable Development Law Clinic. And whereas in June 2022, the Elkins Planning Commission completed its work and presented to council its study and report on zoning, which contained a proposed zoning ordinance. And whereas the Common Council, pursuant to West Virginia Code 8-A-7-1-3 in parens, has the authority to regulate land use within its jurisdiction by enacting a zoning ordinance. And whereas the Common Council believes it's in the best interest of the city and its citizens to repeal the current zoning ordinance that's over 63 years old and certain related conflicting city code sections, and to enact a new zoning ordinance as set forth herein. This evening, council, for the first time, will have an opportunity, if they vote on this by a majority of the members of council, to pass it on its first reading after many years and many hours of incredible work from the Planning Commission, administrative officers, and also the WVU College of Law Land Use Clinic. I cannot tell you how impressed I am with all of that, and as a citizen, I would like to thank all the people that worked on this, and as your city attorney, I am very proud to present this ordinance tonight for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. That's hard to follow now.
Well, I wasn't trying to do that, Mayor.
Just kidding.
At all. You don't give a lawyer an opportunity to speak,
Okay,
you know? It's never a good
I normally don't
idea.
tell you no, so that's all right. Okay, down to approval of the vendor invoice payments, please.
I move we pay the AP.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Any comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Unfinished business is Resolution 1541, appointment of a building inspector and code enforcement officer as city zoning officer.
Mayor, I'd like to request that this be postponed until request that a motion be made for postponement. After some discussion with the city attorney and considering the ordinance, the zoning ordinance is on first reading tonight, we've decided it might be better to wait until that's completed before enacting this resolution, just because of the code references that will have to be made and any other changes that could potentially have to be made to our city code in response to that.
Okay, we have actually a motion
There
from
is,
Ms.
yeah.
Guy, from Councilor Guy.
There's a motion to approve. I'd like to
Correct.
ask that that be withdrawn or changed to a motion to postpone.
I read that you suggested that, and I didn't think about it.
That's okay.
So is your motion then to postpone?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion. Any other comments or discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ordinance 299, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Elkins, West Virginia, amending Chapter 150-035 regarding the version of the International Building Code adopted as a state building code. This is the second and final reading. I'm looking for a motion, please.
So moved.
We have a motion, or actually two. Any comments or discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Ordinance 300, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Elkins, West Virginia, revising Chapter 93, Streets, Sidewalks, and Public Places of the City Code to establish rules and regulations for outdoor dining and public spaces. This is the second and final reading. We have a motion. Any comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Ordinance 301, an ordinance for the Common Council of the City of Elkins, West Virginia, repealing the current Chapter 152 zoning, the Elkins City Code, and other conflicting sections of the City Code, and enacting a new zoning ordinance to be designated as Chapter 152 zoning, this Elkins City Code. This is the first of two readings. Looking for a motion, please.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. Any comments or discussion?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. Unfortunately, I missed the first public comment. There's a couple things in there. I'm in favor of passing this ultimately, but there's a couple things in the zoning ordinance that I would like to see
I
tweaked.
believe this is just a repeal of the first.
This is both, is it not?
It's both.
It's both.
Yeah, yeah.
It's both of it?
Okay.
Sorry.
No worries. Yeah, so my question is, those minor tweaks, should they be made now? Can we make a motion to approve with amendments, or is that something that we could dig into and look on rules and ordinances?
What tweaks are you talking about?
Well, there's a couple small things, like, and again, this is my opinion, right? The bed and breakfast thing, I know that's kind of a contentious point, but there are some time limits for stay, and really, I don't think that, that's beneficial in any way. If somebody has the means to be here and stay here, I feel like they should be able to do that. And if that's somebody, and actually, anecdotally, I met somebody recently during travel. They were staying in Oakland, Maryland at a B&B for months, and they were building trail systems. I know that that is something that Elkins is going to want to do, right? We're already looking at trails. So I don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot on something like that, right? That's just a for instance. So.
May I comment?
Absolutely.
Counselor, there is one minor matter that we will change if a motion is made to that effect about the bed and breakfast. I believe it's Roman number 3. Right. Just because it frankly probably was an oversight. We probably should have picked it up, and we're going to change residence to the word building. As far as your comments about the time frames and whatever, I can tell you, I believe I probably attended every planning commission meeting that they had, save a few when I was unavailable. They spent countless hours talking about those time frames.
Sure.
I believe, as I've said to several people, everything in this zoning ordinance is defensible. You've had 4 sets of lawyers, 4 sets of eyes of 4 lawyers look at this. Me being one of them, and probably the least knowledgeable about zoning. You've had 3 people from the WVU College of Law Clinic. You've also had our representative here that came to our city is a certified city planner, Ms. Demuth. And you've had the expertise and the judgment, wise judgment of the Planning Commission. They've looked at all those timeframes, frankly, sometimes ad nauseum, to the point that, we talked and talked and talked about it. So this is like every other ordinance that you pass. If there is something in it that down the road, someone looks at and thinks this really isn't working, you can amend it, just like you can amend any ordinance you ever pass. This is no different than that. So I would say shy of the one small minor thing that we need to do that I think just slipped after we discussed it. It was the intent. It just the word didn't get changed. My recommendation is if there are things down the road that don't work or things that people have questions about, in your case, you're talking about timeframes and whatever, those can be revisited at any point in time. I think the bigger thing to think about tonight is you've got over, 100 and some pages? I forget the total number, of an incredibly detailed ordinance with incredible amount of attention to it and consideration from everybody that's had their eyes on this and spent since 2015 looking at it. So if down the road those numbers don't work about the days that someone stays, that can be revisited, just like every other ordinance. We have tweaked other ordinances over the years. I can tell you did that with your fire service fee ordinance. You did it with the vacant structure registration part of that ordinance. There are lots of things that in action, sometimes you realize you might need to make a slight change. But at this point, other than that one matter that I'm aware of, you certainly can make motions that you want in that regard, but my belief is that it's, those kind of things can be addressed later if need be. If it's something, I will say this is however many pages. We've spent more time talking about short-term rentals and how that impacts anybody than a whole lot of other things in here that are probably a lot more important in the long run. And I don't mean to demean the fact that short-term rentals are an issue. All you have to do is read the newspaper, and Mr. Chenoweth can probably attest to this because he is counsel for the town of Davis. He's been on the front line about that very issue. and he knows how important it is to people on all sides of the argument. So I don't want you to focus on just short-term rentals in residential areas. They've always been allowed. There's nothing different about that. I mean, people have rented houses in your current residential structure. So if you've got something in particular that you want to have someone look at, we can certainly look at it. But that's my opinion at this point.
Yeah, sure, that was a good answer.
Thank you.
Yeah. With that said, I think that it is important that we get this passed because there are some, other issues, I believe, like, with some storefronts being redeveloped now that, that with the current zoning, they can be used in ways that are not necessarily desirable. So, but yeah, that was one question that I had.
And one other thing to think about, your current zoning ordinance, Chapter 152, it says nothing about these short-term rentals. So you can do whatever you want, wherever you want. This now has guidelines.
Sure.
And I would think most people would be delighted to know that short-term rentals, which is clearly a big issue all around, that we are taking a serious look at it. And with regard to the restriction, we are a home rule city. We are subject to that. And if someone doesn't like that law, they need to speak to their representatives and their senators that represent them. That's who passed that, not the city. And we have to abide because our power here at the city is derivative. The state legislature decides what we can and can't do in many instances. So if there are people that are unhappy about that restriction, I think there's plenty of opportunities to speak to your elected officials at the state level about your unhappiness about that restriction. They put that in 2019 when the home rule program became permanent. It had been a pilot program up until then. When it became permanent that year, that was added. I can't tell you why, but it was. So we want to be a home rule city. It's a wonderful opportunity, and so we have to abide by what it says.
Any other comments?
Can I ask
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to ask a clarifying question. With respect to home run, how does the home rule, I guess us being part of the home rule program, how does that affect this ordinance specifically?
Well, other than this issue of short-term rentals, it really doesn't. I think I sent to all members of council the particular language and highlighted that one thing because there was so much attention, either from the public or by Facebook comments or all types of comments, unhappy with what the city was going to do. We have that restriction. That's the only thing I'm aware of. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that cities can't do if they're a home rule city, and Mayor Skinner's here, they're a home rule city. He probably knows some of the things we're talking about. But the only one that I believe directly affects your zoning ordinance is the one about the short-term rental issue.
Okay.
That's the only one I'm aware of.
And I know at the first public hearing, there's questions, concerns about permitted uses versus conditional uses.
Counselor, can you use your microphone, please?
There's permitted uses and conditional uses, and how does a conditional use become a permitted use? Could you explain that?
So as part of the ordinance, just like you have currently, you have a Board of Zoning Appeals, and they are appointed by council. You have a full panel right now of folks on the Board of Zoning Appeals. Those kinds of questions will come to them. They have certain things they have to do when they look at a question of a conditional use. There's a whole list of things in the ordinance. If you look under the section, which is sort of in the very beginning of the ordinance, that talks about the Board of Zoning Appeals, there's a whole protocol about what they do. There's a list of all the things they look at, and they then make a decision. They have to make findings of facts and conclusions of law, just like courts do. If you are unhappy with their decision, it is appealable to the Circuit Court of Randolph County, and they will be the body that will be making the decisions about the conditional uses.
Thank you.
And people that want to present something to the board, they can come represented by council or by themselves, and bring other people that have expertise to help in why they like to make their case for these conditional uses.
And could I just add one
Okay,
thing
that-
to that? Sorry, just
Oh.
wanted to just add that there is a section 2121 that sets the standards for conditional use. It's not simply up to the judgment of the BZA either. They have to abide by what this zoning ordinance lays out for them.
Okay, well, I was just going to say that as well. On page 5, you can find all those, there's 8 things that have to be followed by the BZA to consider a conditional use application. And in addition to that, they can also add additional requirements to it. So there's a really great system of that process going forward. I would just like to thank the city attorney for her great opening remarks. The Planning Commission has been working terrifically hard on this for many, many years, and have really tried to strike a balance, especially with the whole bed and breakfast, you know, trying to figure out what would have the least impact, but still allow some places to have bed and breakfasts or Airbnbs. If you look at the B&B number 3, they're allowed in the central business district and for longer term, and that was in direct response to public comment about that issue. We did not want to negate the opportunity for downtown second-story lofts to help Elkins become a more vibrant community. So we really worked hard on trying to strike that balance, because on one hand, you do have people saying we should have more opportunities for Airbnbs, but then you have other residents who are very concerned about their neighborhoods being impacted. And as Rob knows, up in Davis and Thomas, they're having some real issues. So we really looked hard at this and decided having conditional use and also having it owner occupied, and even with the B&B 2, the owner has to be there when a visitor is there, to really respond to concerns that people have, especially in the single-family residential districts, that their neighborhoods may be impacted by this. So we really tried to have the opportunity to have longer term in the central business district, and then have conditional use only in the single family. We did look, there were other public comments, sort of similar to Clint's, that were very specific about parking or whatever. But like our city attorney said, we really looked at communities, some of similar size, some not, to see what they are doing in their communities in regard to all these issues. There's probably not a single thing that we did not look at other communities and use the advice of Christy DeMuth and her team on how to have something that not only made sense for our community, but was enforceable. And that's a reality as well. Will have to be some changes made, and that's what our city clerk was talking about, with changing the zone, our code enforcement officer to really be focused on enforcing this terrifically long, involved document. And that's what we want to do. We're not putting all these different rules out there and just hope people do it out of the goodness of their heart. We really want to make sure that things are enforced as much as possible. Regarding, I guess we'll wait for the amendment to that one issue.
That's up to members of council.
Okay.
You have an opportunity, you can enact it just like it is, as is, without that amendment. I would take the position that it is not a substantive amendment, so you don't certainly have to start this whole process over.
Okay.
You can do that. You can make a motion to make the amendment that we discussed, and we can point out exactly where it is and what the reason is. That's sort of your option two.
Okay.
And that's kind of where you are at this
Okay.
point. So
All right.
I'm going to leave that to the folks to get to make the decisions about these things. And obviously, you can send that back to the planning commission if you're unhappy with that one small thing. And there are members in the commission that I see here this evening who
Yes,
probably
yes.
would prefer that not be one of the options.
Yes.
So,
Including myself.
And we do have a motion on the floor, by the way. Any other comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
So hold on just a
Wait.
second, please. If
Wait.
there's an intention
wait.
to make a motion to amend, you have to do that now
Yes,
before you.
before
vote.
you, exactly. All right, so I move to amend the draft ordinance by making a word change on the definition of bed and breakfast 3, which is under, it's on page 12.
I'm sorry. Yeah, she did.
Section 2132, and the definition of bed and breakfast in 3, where it currently says means a private residence. I would like to amend that word, the 2 words private residence, to building in which an overnight accommodations are provided for not more than 8, et cetera, et cetera. It's changing those 2 words, private residence, to building. And that was our intent because you have in the central business district a lot of storefronts, and then upstairs you would have, it would not be considered a private residence. So that's the one change that I have.
So you have a motion to amend. You'll need to take a vote on that motion.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion to amend. Any other discussions on this? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Now for the original motion.
Yes.
Okay, now we have the original motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 1550, appointing interim operations manager and establishing a compensation level.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 1551, adopting city council rule on executive session and amending City of Elkins rules of council. Looking for a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any comments or discussion?
I just asked the city attorney or the clerk to explain the changes.
So there was an opinion that came out from the Ethics Commission, an advisory opinion back in March. And I believe at the time it came out, I circulated it among members of council, that had to do with the confidentiality of executive sessions. The question was posed by the Harrison County Commission because apparently an issue came up following an executive session when someone that participated in it spoke about things that other folks thought were confidential. So based on that request, the advisory opinion came out from the Ethics Commission, and they basically said there is nothing in the law about executive sessions and the Open Meetings Act that specifies it's confidential. And so when I sent it out, I suggested you might want to think about this as one of your council rules. Rules and Ordinance decided to take it up. They thought it was important. And since there is no restriction in the Open Government Meetings Act, this is now adding something to your council rules that basically will say, in any executive session that is either a council or a committee executive session, all of those that participate are to keep that session confidential. Frankly, if it's called as a result of attorney consultation, there is a separate privilege for that. But there are other exemptions that allow you to have executive sessions. So I believe the goal is that when you have an executive session with council, it'll be the elected officials unless for some reason they step aside because of a conflict, and we've had that happen. And of course, all of council members and the mayor, and anyone they choose to invite to that session. If it's a committee, it will be the members of the committee, and even if there are members of council that are present that are not members of the committee, it will only be an executive session with the committee members, and again, anyone they choose to invite. So Rules and Ordinance looked at this. I gave them a proposed rule. They wanted it to apply to not just council, but to the committees, so I changed it to do that. It is their recommendation that council consider this so that there is no question about what happens in a session that is an executive session, that those discussions, based on whatever reason you've gone to executive session, are confidential. And as a member of the council and the mayor, and any person they choose to invite, you are bound by that. So, other than when there's reasons they can give it up, and you know, Rob, sometimes in discovery questions and things this comes up, but that is only by council action. In every other instance, those sessions are going to remain confidential if you choose to adopt this council rule. And I can tell you other cities have done that after that came out in March. They realized it might be problematic, so this lays out what the rules are. Everyone knows.
Thank you.
Any other comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 1552, approval of the changes of the City of Elkins classification and compensation plan. Looking for a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 1553, approving full-time regular employee status and confirming a compensation level for Jay Hayden. I'm looking for a motion to accept.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 1554, General Fund Budget Revision 2023-001-01 for fiscal year '23. Looking for a motion, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any comments or discussion? Then I'll ask the clerk to take a roll call vote.
Roll call vote for Resolution 1554. Counselor Vest,
Yes.
Counselor Chenoweth,
Yes.
Counselor Hinchman,
Yes.
Counselor Kwanzo,
Yes.
Counselor Higgins,
Yes.
Counselor Severino,
Yes.
Counselor Bras Fraganera,
Yes.
Counselor Lowther,
Yes.
Counselor Guy has left us, and Counselor Parker is absent. Motion carries.
Thank you. Resolution 1555, appointing a treasurer and confirming the amount of compensation. Looking for a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 1556, authorizing conditions of lease and addendum and maintenance agreement between Hart Office Solutions and the City of Elkins Sanitation Department. I'm looking for a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 1557, authorizing conditions of lease and addendum and maintenance agreement between Hart Office Solutions and the City of Elkins Street Department. I'm looking for a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. L, presentation of draft comprehensive plan by Planning Commission.
First, I want to thank, there are two members of our Planning Commission that were here this evening, and I am so grateful for the entire commission. Thank you, Phillips, for being here, and Kate Summers was here earlier. They put in a ton of work on all this, and I greatly appreciate everything that you've done. You had in your packet the amendments to the 2015 Comprehensive Plan.
Go ahead.
Am I all right? Okay. Sorry. It was really necessary to make these amendments to make sure that the comprehensive plan and the zoning ordinance were on the same playing field. There were only 3 amendments in the plan. On page 518, there were bulleted items which had proposed things that are now part of the zoning ordinance, but one thing that we had not been able to foresee was the need to have the development of telecommunications facilities. So that whole section that was in your handout, talking about the telecommunications, that was something new. You know, we were getting to the final stages of getting the zoning ordinance together, and then bam, we had this to do as well. So one of the take-home messages is we really looked hard at where these should be placed. We wanted to have the least amount of impact, and if, one of the parts of the amendment had if facilities are placed downtown, the facilities should be in the industrial zoned areas. We were very mindful of the impact that these would have in the downtown and residential areas. On page 519, the 2015 narrative reads, it has a whole paragraph talking about that city is urban in nature and does not have any lands that are classified as agricultural or conservation. There was a whole paragraph with that. We amended it to add, the city supports the preservation of agricultural lands and in the future would consider annexation of agricultural lands. And we did that because we really wanted to recognize the importance of agritourism and agribusiness. And we felt it was important, even though our current zoning, we do not have any agricultural districts, we did not want to dismiss the fact that we hope and we may have some in the future. And as a matter of fact, we had done a whole land use, what things would be applicable to that area, and told everybody to please save those, don't delete them, because we feel like that's an important part of our area. The final, and then the other is an amendment, but there was a crossing out of the Weiss Historic District. And while people may have thought that that was getting rid of the historic district, it just meant that we were not going to designate another zoning district that would have that title. We had public meetings about this in the neighborhood, and at the time we had the meetings, most people felt that that was not a priority, and so we took that off of our proposed zoning ordinance. So that's why that's out there. We are not getting rid of the historic district, which is part of a Park Service designation. The final amendment is modifying the future land use maps that are found on page 518 and 523 with an updated land use map, which does not include that Weiss Historic District in the references. There are a few small, very small changes in the land use map that makes it, again, it matches better with the new zones that are part of the zoning ordinance that you all passed this evening. And then the final note is that this is a 2015 comprehensive plan. Just when Planning Commission thinks that, oh gosh, you know, we can rest a little bit, we need to start planning. By law, we have to update this every 10 years, so we're going to start the whole process again and have to update this by 2025. And some of the concerns that people did mention during public comment about wording or whatever that was in the 2015 plan, you have to recognize that was written years ago, and we'll be looking at it again. These amendments really related to the zoning ordinance. It was not our intent to go through the entire document and change that. There will be a public hearing on these amendments on September 1st at 7 o'clock. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Actually, we're looking for a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
Any comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. And by law, we have to establish a date for the plan for the public hearing, the comprehensive plan public hearing. And what date did you say?
September 1.
Okay, to September 1.
September 1, 7.
Say, I'll look for a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any comments or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Discussion of ad hoc ARPA Advisory Committee recommendations. Looking for a motion to accept, please.
Well, I think we need to probably explain what they are first before. Counselor Hinchman, you want to do that, or would you like me to?
Okay, I'll take it. In your packets, at the very end, is the invoices or the quotes for the proposed work.
Mike, can you get a little closer to your mic, please? Thank you, sir.
The work to be done. It's at the wastewater plant, and let me check right here quickly. It's $76,704.90 for upgrades as needed in the wastewater. Once we got in there, we found all kind of problems, which was not a surprise. And the other invoice was for the water plant for the air compressors, which are going out. And that was for $21,784.32.
Thank you, sir. After that explanation, I'm looking for a motion to accept, please.
Motion to accept.
Okay, we have a motion. Any other comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, down to mayor's comments. I'm going to say that I feel very blessed to have the professional relationship that I do with Mayor Skinner. And, I mean, their city has been very, very supportive of our city, and we like to reciprocate. So with that, I'd like to defer my mayor's comments to Mayor Skinner to address our council.
Well, good evening, all of you. It's wonderful to be with you all as our sister city relationship is stronger than ever, and I know that Mayor Marco feels that way. Our council meetings are typically on the same night. So with you all changing your schedule this time, it made it possible for Mayor Marco to join us last week in Buchanan. So I got to join you this evening in Elkins. As many of you know, Elkins is my second hometown. My dad is from here, and my grandmother still lives here up at Woodridge. The last time I attended a public meeting in Elkins, I got quoted in the Intermountain quite a lot, and I promised my grandmother I would behave and I would not be quoted in the Intermountain so much. So, but with that, I want to thank you all. The city of Elkins has been tremendously supportive of us. As you know, we suffered a very tough blow last October. We lost a building on Main Street due to a large structure fire. City of Elkins Fire Department, under the direction of Chief Himes, who's very good friends with Chief Kimball with our city fire department, brought over your ladder truck, brought over 10 of your paid staff and volunteers to help us fight the fire. We could not have saved the rest of the block of Main Street if it weren't for the City of Elkins Fire Department. And I know that's not the only time you come to Buchanan. You've been there for other fires as well. So we were happy to help the City of Elkins last week. We are graciously and very happy to send our building code enforcement officer over here, Vincent Smith. He will be helping the city of Elkins out for a couple of months in the absence of your building code enforcement officer, and we are not accepting or expecting any reimbursement for that. It is a gift from the city of Buchanan. Vince will still remain under our payroll. He will just be coming over here 1 day a week, whereas we have him a total of 3 days a week, so we'll sacrifice him for 1 day. I told Mayor Marco you cannot have him. He says that he can be very persuasive, but Vince lives a lot closer to Buchanan than here. So, but anyway, we're happy to have that relationship to where we can help one another. There are no two other cities in West Virginia more similar than Elkins and Buchanan. Two college towns, two big festival towns, rivals on Friday night. So we might put our happy friendship aside for Friday night, but we resume it right back on Saturday morning. So with that, I just want to thank you very much for all the support that you have given the city of Buchanan, and we will continue to support the city of Elkins in any way we can. So with that, thank you, Mayor. Have a wonderful evening and a great weekend.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for your generosity. I will say Mayor Skinner made a comment last week that they had the best downtown in West Virginia. He obviously doesn't know how competitive I am because I want to take that title away from him right now. So that's my vision going forward. So we're going to fight for it. All right. With that, I will look for a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to say something.
Absolutely.
I just want to take a moment to thank the Planning Commission for all the hard work. I know it's been a lot of work, and I've listened to people talk about it and have read the entire document, even though it was pretty dry reading, but it was worth reading. So thank you all very much for making your efforts to help the city of Elkins into the next century.
Thank you. Any other alibis tonight? If none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.
Okay, so what do I do with these?
Okay.
Where do I do
Just initial, and then